We're conducting a survey of all of the gilded furniture in Windsor Castle, and there's more than 800 individual items of giltwood furniture. When you look at a piece of gilded furniture, you see the gold on the surface, but underneath there's usually timber, and between the timber and the gold, there's another material called gesso, and that's kind of like a plaster, but it's made from chalk and glue. The survey team will have to look at various things. When they come to a piece of gilded furniture, the first thing they will probably look at is the structure. To check the structure, they're going to grab maybe a leg or the back of a chair and give it a wiggle just to see if the joint is sound, and if it's not, they'll make a note. Next, they'll be tapping the surface, and what they're doing there is actually listening for hollow sound, because it's not always obvious. You might see a crack, but you don't know if it's loose, so they actually have to tap the surface and listen carefully just for any hollow sounds underneath. An inherent problem with gilding is that the timber underneath the gesso is always going to be susceptible to changes in temperature and humidity, whereas the gesso on top is rigid. And so over time, the timber can move around if it gets hot or cold, and the gesso will always stay the same, so you can actually develop a pocket of air between the two materials. Each piece of furniture has its own identification number, and they're recording all of the things that they found on a tablet tied to that number, so we'll be able to collate all of that information later on. If we find a hollow, it means the gesso is particularly vulnerable and it could very easily fall off. If it falls off and we have to build it back up again, it's many hours of work, even for a small piece. So ideally, we're hoping to catch the gesso before it falls off. To consolidate something here in the workshop, first of all, we have to heat up the glue because it's a traditional glue, so it has to be used hot. The consolidant is made from the same kind of glue that's actually used to make the gesso in the first place. Then I get a bit of glue on the brush, find a crack on the object, get a little bead of that glue right on the edge of the crack, and then I'll actually start tapping alongside that crack. And what's happening there is it's actually setting up a little bit of a suction, and that helps to draw the glue inside the crack under the gesso and helps to really fill that space between the gesso and the timber. This is a torchère. It's just a stand really for holding a candelabra, and it's one of a set of 4. It normally lives in a room at Windsor Castle called the King's Drawing Room. This is a working collection, and it's important for us to keep as much on the public route so the visitors can see it. We don't want to take things away to the workshop unless we need to, so the survey is a way for us to find the most vulnerable pieces of furniture, bring those back to the workshop and give them the work they need, and then we can bring them back to the castle for the visitors to enjoy.